A steal by Tippett. The game at his stick. He scores! OT in OT. Tippett wins it for Philadelphia.
This is episode 109 of the Liberty O. Danny Deemer here with Chris Stumpa.
As always, how are you, buddy?
I mean, it's hard not to be doing well after the news that we've been receiving over the last couple of days. Now, listen, I know it's not confirmed, but it's confirmed. Let's be real. We're just waiting for the tweet. We're waiting for the ELC at this point. I'll put it like this. If it doesn't happen, I'd be heartbroken right now. Just because I feel like I've been teased.
I mean, he's out here liking Instagram pictures of the report. So, I mean, every little thing that you read, like if you read between the lines here, you read between the lines there, or even at face value, I mean, like the fucking chairman of SKA has come out and said that we'll talk, you'll find out in June, and it's 2 weeks before June, and we're already kind of getting confirmation, bro. Like, I was talking to Derek and Zach in the group chat. I'm like, somebody bring me back down to earth. Somebody tell me something where I can kind of take a step back and be like, okay, maybe I'm getting a little bit too hype here. But everything that has been said from the chairman's side, Michkov's agency side, I mean, the Instagram I mean, that's like, he's not liking a BR report saying there's rumors that Michkov's coming over if it actually isn't happening, if that makes sense. And I know that's something like that's crazy to say, all because of an Instagram but from what we've heard up until now, and then seeing that, I mean, for me personally, that kind of cemented it for me. I don't know if that's crazy to say, but an Instagram from a guy like that with a rumor that serious, I mean, you know how Russia takes that shit. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like him liking Instagram shit that's saying that he's coming over, it's pretty much cemented. So
it's like a sneaky way to confirm something that the Flyers can't confirm themselves. Like, you'll never hear Danny Briere say, "Oh, it's happening." Like, we're in talks right now. But seeing Michkov himself like that post is like, okay.
That's what I mean. Like you said, Danny can't. First of all, they can't buy him out or pay for him to come to Philadelphia. It's between Michkov, his agency, and SKA. And I'm not sure if there's a third party involved, but from what we know, from what it seems like from my standpoint right now, Danny, it seems like the money is the holdup. Like, once they figure out, first of all, how he's going to get bought out, the contract, but where it's coming from or how much, I think that's what we're waiting on. And it's all much pretty done, in my opinion. Like, this is just me spitballing. I think he's coming over. I think SKA knows that. I think Rottenberg knows that. Like, Rottenberg himself in the interview today, if you go on our Twitter, and I'm sorry, I'm a little, I'm getting over being sick, so if I sniffle and bother you, I apologize. If you go on our Twitter, I think Rottenberg had like an interview today or something like that, and there were a couple quotes, and a reporter asked him, what about Ivan Demidov? Like, is he going to stay there? Is he going to? And he immediately was like, Demidov has a contract with us. He's going to be developing with us. He's going to have a spot. Like, and he didn't deny any of the Michkov stuff. Like, he didn't say he was definitely coming over, and he didn't shut it down like he shut Demidov. So it really, from my perspective, like, this kid is going to be orange and black in a couple of months. And it's fucking insane to say that almost a year to the date of drafting him. But is it really that crazy, bro? Because I had like a little bit of an inkling that this might happen. The full 3 years wasn't going to be a thing.
Do you remember, I believe it was midway through this season when Dan Hilferty did an interview, and I sent it a particular part of it to you, where he was like, he basically, I'm paraphrasing, he didn't say it would be 3 years. He said, Jonesy and Briere will get him over when the time is right. Didn't sound like, oh, we're going to wait 3 years. And it might have been a slip from him. He might not have meant to say it because they've been playing it cool this entire time. But it really hammered the point home to me that this wasn't going to be 3 years.
And like, there's so many things that in retrospect you can go back and look at. Because I remember after the draft, I think it was the night of, I forget what account it was, but somebody tweeted out Michkov saying that, or somebody that was like inside knowledge of the situation was like, he's only going to be there for 1 year. Like, he'll be over next summer. I forget what it was exactly, but there have been so many like little things that have happened over the last year that I am now going back and like backtracking my steps and being like, ooh, that was weird back then, and it makes sense now. You know what I mean? Type of thing. So, like, even when Michkov was interviewed after getting drafted, and who's that really good sideline reporter? She's a woman, and I think she usually does it for TNT. What's her name? Do you know who I'm talking about?
Nah, the name is blanking, but I remember the interview.
You know who I'm talking about, though, right?
Yeah.
Somebody let me know who that is. She's a really good reporter and insider. She was like, "So when are you going to come over, Michkov?" And he like translated, and the translator was like, "Hopefully soon. It is his dream to be in the NHL." And I always like really thought that was a weird answer to give. Like, you have a contract for 3 years. You would think, be like, yeah, when my contract's over, I'm excited to get to the NHL and make a name for myself. But his answer was soon. It's my dream to be in the NHL. And I always think back to, kind of rambling here, but the fact that like him and his dad's biggest dream was for him to go to the NHL and win a cup. And now that his dad's not here, with the whole Sochi situation and him not wanting to like be there because it reminds him of his dad, and the fact that this kid's going to come into this city hungry, dude. Like, I'm not talking cup right away, obviously, but like this kid is going to be working towards something and proving people wrong. Because I mean, look, 3 years ago, what tournament was it, Danny? The U18, when he had more points than Bedard. I think he had 12 goals in 7 games or something like that.
Yep. And at that point, it was projected Bedard won him too.
Yeah. It was World Junior 18. Yeah, 7 goals, 12 assists. No, I'm sorry. 12 goals, 4 assists, 16 points in 7 games. And that was the tournament where it was him and Bedard, 1v1, and he bested him. And ever since then, Russia gets banned from international competition. The limelight he gets overshadowed by Bedard in Canada. It's just, this kid is going to be hungry as fuck coming to the NHL. And that's so scary, dude. And the fact that we're talking about it now as a real possibility is just, it's honestly fucking insane. It really is.
Yeah, he has to have a massive chip on his shoulder. And it's only fitting that he comes to a city like this, to an organization like this that also has a massive chip on its shoulder and wants to prove itself, get back to relevancy. It's a perfect match. And you know it has to rub him the wrong way, seeing all the media attention Bedard's got. I mean, he was ESPN's like golden boy this year. He was everywhere. Highlights were being posted, articles written, his games were being featured, and he had that stripped from him. That should have been his. The spotlight should have also been on him, and he had that stripped from him. So I'm so excited to see him come in. But I think you talked about that interview today with Rottenberg.
Mm-hmm.
It's really telling when even he is not admitting defeat, but kind of admitting the obvious.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this quote, I'm reading it from John Bailey from, who does he write for? Philly Hockey Now. It says, quote unquote, if he does not play in the first team in Philadelphia, he will return to us. That's all. Rottenberg's comments on Matvei Michkov Flyers rumors. I mean, if he's saying that, it's kind of all but cemented. And I heard him say a couple of days ago, it's just there will be an announcement soon. It just comes down to legality issues.
Mm-hmm.
And the writing is on the wall here. It's exciting as hell, man.
If he's not going to play on the first line, where the fuck else would he play? You know what I mean? Like, I apologize. Oh my God. I tweeted out something today. It was, I remember, I don't know if it was the same interview with him, Rottenberg, but they were, SKA was like, if he goes to the NHL, he's coming back to the KHL. And I tweeted out today, I said, Dear SKA and others, if Tortorella or Briere even think about sending Matvei Michkov to Lappy down in the AHL, we will single-handedly ship both of them to Serbia with zero question asked. Sincerely, TLY and probably all of Philadelphia. So you don't have to worry about him not playing on the top line and getting power play minutes and being the guy here. Like, he is arguably, I mean, TK is probably better than him right now. I mean, he is still 19 years old, but he's just your most skilled player. He's the not really a word, funnest player in the world, and not in the world, on your team right away. So PP1, top line. I mean, fuck it, throw him on the PK. Like, I really don't give a fuck. Like, they don't have to worry about him not playing on a top line or being in the AHL. Like, this isn't fucking Oli Alexei. You know what I mean?
Dude, he's the face of the franchise, and he's not even contracted under the team yet. Like, I hope they're stressing that to him.
Let's be honest, he's close. And I know, like, I'm talking way ahead of my. He's close to the fucking face of the league, dude. I mean, I know Bedard, blah blah blah, but like, he is just as skilled as Connor Bedard, if not a little better. Like, this kid is. This is the best hockey player that we've had here since Claude. I mean, I'm already getting ahead of myself, but like, this kid is so fucking good, and I don't think people realize just how good he is, and the fact that this is even possible to talk about him coming over early, and the fact that it's probable too is insane. Like I said to you on text, it won't fully hit until he's like eating a WAWA sandwich in Voorhees or something. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. That's why I've tried to temper my excitement even throughout all these articles, interviews, quotes that are coming out. It's like, I just want to see it happen, because the reality is this is about to be a extremely huge off season, and someone's going to fall to us at 12 that we're going to be really happy with. There's potentially a Farabee or a TK type of transaction going to go down. We can get into that later or now if you'd like. But if this is the kickoff to what I think the summer is going to be, it's going to be a huge one. Probably the biggest one since I've really followed the team closely, which was about 2011, 2012.
Yeah. I think that kind of directs us perfectly into some questions. And the first one is Justin, because I completely agree. I think this is one of the big. I mean, I've been saying this before even the possibility of Michkov coming over. I still think this is an extremely important offseason in terms of the direction this team is going, because you can't come back with a lot of the same guys. I know, not a lot, but I know some are going to return. You got Tippett, Frost, Yorkie, Drysdale, obviously, like the obvious dudes, but there has to be change, right? And I feel like Justin kind of segues us into that perfectly. What is your perfect, but at least somewhat realistic draft day scenario? Any trade certain picks? For me personally, and I know I've been saying this on this podcast for a solid year now, but I mean, I've always seen them trading that Florida pick with either Lawton or somebody else to kind of go out and get somebody. And Derek, our boy Derek, makes a really good point when he talks about like and he was on the timeline talking about it today about the 1C situation and how the Flyers have to go out and get a 1C for Michkov. And there was like a lot of banter about like Nietzsche's, Monty Nietzsche's, and a lot of people being like, well, he's not a true 1C, blah, blah, blah. And Derek comes back and he said, well, you're not really going to get a solid 1C who's been cemented into the league via trade just like that. Like, you're going to have to take on some risk of whether or not that guy can turn into a 1C. You know what I mean? So that's a move that I definitely think that they should make. Whether it's Nietzsche, whether it's Zegras, whether it's Cousins and Belfour, like somebody along those lines, a young center who might not be there yet in terms of full-blown 1C, but has a path and fits this system. Like Nietzsche got moved to wing in Carolina because of the extremely harsh defensive system that Brind'Amour plays, basically just man-to-man defense, and that's not something that he would play here. So, I mean, you could maybe see him. Could he turn into a 1C next to Michkov in a completely different system here? So, like, that's something you got to think about. So, but to answer Justin's question, perfect for me is you pick at 12, somebody falls in your lap, whether it's Yzerman or Berkeley, Catton, any of those guys, and then you package Florida's pick with either Farabee, Lawton, or TK and go get a player, or you move back up into the top 15 and then you get two guys or a defenseman, or you double up on a forward. You go get Consta Helenius. I don't know. Justin or Danker is definitely going to butcher me for that. But that's my perfect and somewhat realistic draft day scenario is you draft at 12, and then you get spicy after that, whether it's an active player or whether it's you trading up for another prospect. But this is the summer of spiciness, so I'm expecting something, right, along those lines.
Yeah, I think I'm of the same thinking. You just take one of those two guys at 12, hopefully. For me, I'm more dialed in on Trevor Zegras. I've always have been ever since there was smoke to the rumors before the trade deadline, before his injury. The Flyers have talked with the Ducks. They've made moves with the Ducks just last season. Have to wonder if those conversations were had and are going to be revisited. I think he's really young. He fits the timeline. You mentioned how Derek said you kind of got to take a risk and see if a guy can grow into that. I think Trevor Zegras kind of fits that bill perfectly. I mean, he's one breakout season away from being unobtainable, in my opinion. If you can get him now, now's the time to do it. Now's the time to strike, because that breakout year is going to come for him. And we're lacking skill. Michkov's obviously going to change that. Whoever we pick at 12, obviously is going to change that. But if you get Zegras too, I mean, that's the ultimate pack-a punch. That's the ultimate upgrade. You go from having the worst power play I've ever seen in my entire life to potentially a top 15, top 10 next year, in my opinion. So
yeah. I mean, it's like for me, like you just said, he's one breakout season away from being untouchable. For me, obviously not the Ducks, but he's untouchable right now, in my opinion. Like, this kid is 23 years old, already has 2 60-point seasons under his belt. In 2021, he had 23, 38, 61, and 75. Then he turned around and had 23, 42, 65, and 81 the next year. Last year was definitely a down year, only 15 and 31. But, I mean, this is a 23-year-old kid with all the skill in the world, exactly what you need. We need an infusion of skill, who is only, like I just said, 23 years old. Like, he's still a fucking kid. So I think you would have to be insane not to be in on Trevor Zegras. I would genuinely like to hear somebody come on the pod if they want and defend why you would not want a guy like Trevor Zegras on your team. So that's an interesting trade potentially, but he's definitely going to end up going to like Montreal or something, right? We're definitely going to.
But imagine him returning with Drysdale, playing with the likes of York.
We'd have like half the Ducks roster. I'm just kidding. It would be pretty cool.
Those are his boys. You know he would enjoy it. And Anaheim, let's be real, they haven't played structured hockey in about 6 years. As long as Trevor Zegras has been there, he's playing free skate out there. I mean, yeah, he's racking up points, but the games don't mean anything. There's a big lack of structure in the play of the Ducks. I think he would thrive in this environment, in games that matter, on a timeline that matters and is building towards something, in an organization with the family feel that we have. And he's needed too. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, he will help the organization, and then this organization in turn will help him. There's no lack of, we're not cheap. We're going to pay him what he wants when the time comes. Like, I think it would be a match made in heaven for both parties. It's just my opinion.
No, I agree. I really hope that's somebody that they're in on. But question from Seamus: what pick do you think Michkov would have been if everyone thought he'd come over this early?
2.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. If Michkov was playing in the WHL instead of Russia, and was definitely coming over, and there was no question surrounding his departure from the league that he was in, 100%. Like, I think there'd be arguments to go number 1. Like, I don't even think that's crazy to say, because before all this shit happened with the fucking war and Russia getting banned from international play, he was being talked about. It was Michkov versus Bedard, and then we just got done talking about the tournament that they were both in. The last time that they faced each other, he had more points in that tournament, and yeah, it was 3 years ago, but I mean, like, I don't think it's insane to say that he would have been in talks for number 1, and then definitely would have went number 2 to the Ducks. Like, no way the Ducks pass over him, right?
No, I mean, we know for a fact the Ducks even considered it going in a draft day. I believe it was on record. I don't have
really.
Yeah, I don't have the source on top of me, but it was a consideration for them. Maybe it wasn't like their goal going into draft day. It was probably always Leo Carlson, but there was definitely some consideration there. I remember us speaking about it too after it happened.
Why don't I remember that?
Like I said, maybe I'm just making this up out of thin air, but I don't think I am. I could try to go back after this episode and pull some of it up. But
if somebody's listening and they know what Danny's talking about, let them know, because that's interesting.
So I just remember already in that storm of excitement. I just remember that was a talking point. It was the Ducks considered him at 2, and the Capitals really wanted him at 8 and tried to trade up to get in, but they obviously couldn't. They failed in that regard. I mean, it's perfect though the way it happened. If it doesn't happen the way it does, we don't get him. So it's
I think I do remember the Washington rumor coming up after the draft about how they were extremely interested in trading up after the Arizona pick, I think. But then we were after Arizona, so we were like, no fucking way, right? I think it was something along those lines.
Yeah, actually, I think it was going into draft day. I believe we were a little worried about it. Yeah, I think we were worried about it. I mean, Washington, Ovechkin, and it's pretty obvious why they would want a superstar Russian player, because they probably feel like the Russian player would have no problem transitioning to their organization after seeing the way they handled Alex Ovechkin. But I'm glad it happened the way it happened, man.
Yeah.
So like we can say all we want about this. He has a chip on his shoulder. He was casted out from the national spotlight. He was banned from tournaments and how horrible that is. But I just think it's only going to, well, clearly it only benefited us, but it's going to benefit him now, because when he gets here, it's really time to prove something for him.
That's actually a pretty good point. Like in the long run, after all of this, it did nothing. I know it's not over yet. He's not officially here, but pretty much set in stone in my opinion. Everything happened benefited the Flyers and us. Like him getting sent to Sochi last year, which obviously he probably didn't want to happen. Nothing but good for us in terms of the relationship with SKA. Him obviously dropping the way he did. It's just so crazy to look back on it now that it's almost a full year later, that it's kind of worked out like this, that he might come over a whole 2 years earlier than he was supposed to. So should I buy a Michkov jersey now or wait, from Stefan on Twitter? Fuck it, dude. Do it now.
Yeah, do it now. Why not? I mean, even if it, let's say the 2% chance happens and he doesn't come here next year, when he does get here, he's the guy to watch. He's the face of the franchise. He's the reason you're going to buy your tickets. You should get the jersey whenever you feel like you want the jersey, in my opinion. But do you remember?
If he doesn't,
go ahead.
Yeah, no, you go.
I'll just finish with this. I remember, I believe it was like 2022 when we were on during that really bad season. We talked about the light at the end of the tunnel and what's it going to take for the Flyers to get back to relevancy. And one talking point we always brought up is like, we just need some stupid luck, some lightning in the bottle sort of luck, something we didn't expect to happens. And now look at us. And that's what it was. It was Michkov falling to 7, us getting him, meeting with him behind the scenes, him enthusiastically wanting to come over here, saying how much of he admires the organization, the family feel, how good the conversations were with the front office. I mean, there's so many different scenarios that this could have went not in our favor. And it just feels like the lightning in the bottle, dumb, stupid luck that we needed, that we talked about in the past. And it's about to happen.
Oh, there are definitely other dimensions and universes where he got drafted and was like, I'm not playing for Philly. I'm glad I'm in the one that he is happy as fuck. I mean, if the kid was smiling ear to fucking ear when he got drafted. Like, I've never seen somebody be that excited to be a Flyer. And it was a fucking superstar that was that excited. So still, like, I'm genuinely still shocked that we have him. Like, I remember talking to you, like, I'm struggling to get past the fact that he might be here. I'm still at the fact that we drafted him. You know, like, I'm still there. But Garrett, what are some real? I'll I'll come back to that. This will be Danny. This is for you because I was interested to hear what you had to say about this one. From Grant Hughes, are y'all at all concerned that Michkov might have too much pressure on him initially? Sometimes overseas players take a bit to adapt to the North American game. I think we shouldn't be too hard on him year one. Let him get over here and get comfortable.
Definitely shouldn't be too hard on him, but I don't think the pressure is too big for him. I mean, this guy has dealt with nothing but pressure since his dad passed away. I mean, all the adversity that he's fought through. I just think he's built for this. I think he has the mindset, the mental makeup of a kind of guy who's going to come over here and thrive. Scoring is higher in this league. There's more power plays. The ice is smaller. So while, yeah, you could say like the North American ice adjustment, it's going to be more claustrophobic for him. I actually think in a way he's going to thrive more when he gets here. I think the game might get a little bit easier for him. I mean, he had 41 and 47, I believe it was, over in the KHL on one lung. And like I said before, low-scoring league, awful team. I mean, you throw in all those factors, and it makes it even that much more impressive. So you throw him into this team with a heavy rush-centric system, smaller ice, more, like I said, scoring's higher, more power plays, more talented line mates to play with.
Yeah.
I actually think the game's going to get a little bit easier for him. But I do agree to a point that we shouldn't put too much pressure on him. Like, we shouldn't expect him to come in and be Nathan McKinnon year one and just like will us to multiple playoff series wins. But I don't think that is the expectation. I think we just want to see the face of our franchise play hockey, and we'll let the cards fall how they do. But I do agree.
I think that was my thing. Kind of though, I mean, obviously there'll be certain kinds of pressures on him because he's Matvei Michkov and he's playing for the Philadelphia Flyers. But I think the good thing about the fact that he's coming over now, like there's one quote unquote bad thing, and I'll get to that right after this. But I think the fact that he's coming over to a team that really doesn't have cup aspirations or deep playoff aspirations, like you said, he can kind of just come here and get comfortable and like do his thing and play hockey. Like if he was joining Carolina or Florida or something, like he would be expected to join and be a part of a deep playoff run with one of those teams, right? So not here. Like playoff round with him would be great. 2 would be like more than what I would ask for. So I think it's a good thing that he's kind of coming into a situation where it's not really going to demand any kind of pressures from him. But to get to the quote unquote bad thing, I think the only thing that you can look at and be like, oh, I kind of wish he would come a little bit later is a couple more years rebuilding and tooling with your roster to get ready for him. A couple more years to get these contracts off the board. A couple more years to add players. And 2 years he joins and you have the quote unquote roster that you want around him with him making ELC money at like 21 years old, 20 years old. You know what I mean? Like that's the only, I think, quote unquote downside of this. I've said him coming over a little bit earlier is like you won't get him on a crazy good ELC contract to start out or like when your team's ready to go. Because like if he comes over in 2 years, Danny would have 2 more years of getting a roster together and having a little bit like more of a competitive team than he would have now. And Michkov would be on an ELC, so he really wouldn't have to. I mean, he could sign a couple guys to like 3-4 year deals with a little bit more money because Michkov is making pennies. So I think that would be the only bad thing about this, right? I don't know about anything else.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just because we talked about it as soon as we drafted him, like how perfect that fits the timeline. Getting him on an ELC when he's, or I'd say ages 22 through 25, when he's for certain going to be a high level producer was definitely the thinking. But I think what eases the blow of that to me a little bit is the whole Carter Hart situation, because we all knew in due time he was going to make a bag and he was going to take up and rightfully so. The time that he was playing here, he was deserving of getting the bag. He was probably the face of the franchise before Matvei Michkov arrived, but now the goaltending position seems kind of thin and cheaper. So that kind of eases the blow for me just a little bit, knowing that hey, our goalie isn't going to be making 8-9 million or whatever Carter Hart would have gotten. And I just think it helps ease the money situation for me a little more.
Does this change your thoughts on connecting at all?
Well, what do you mean by that? Because my thoughts were always
handing him
oh yeah,
9.
100%. Yeah, I do not want to extend him, not one bit.
So you're in the let me see connecting traded at the draft floor.
Yeah, I think an ideal scenario is to do a sign-in trade so he could get that 8th year. Because whatever team wants to acquire him, you could say, hey, we're going to sign him to that 8th year because, in UFA, you can only get 7 if you're moving to a different team. So you get him on the 8th year. Maybe you get the money, the AAV, at a little bit more of a discount. I think that could be attractive to some organizations.
And that's my thing. When I said in the beginning of the episode, I just want to see something spicy. Like, I'm not sitting here pounding the table and saying that Travis Konechny is a bad player because he's not. But age, fit, timeline, Michkov, just it all just screams, let me see something fucking crazy. You know what I mean? Like, I just it doesn't even have to be him. If they end up signing him to a contract extension, but they end up trading Konechny. They end up trading Farabee and somebody else, or Farabee and Lawton. Like, they just have to do something. Like, I can't see a Konechny re-sign and then Lawton doesn't get moved because of just the locker room presence that he brings. I've been hearing that for fucking 13 years. I just need to see something, and I know it's May 20th, and we have a solid month before shit starts getting crazy, and I'm kind of just screaming into the fucking wind right now, but that's my thing. Michkov coming here changes my thoughts on Konechny a little bit. I was a little bit more open to re-signing him than I am now. Like, I really just think a trade with him makes sense, especially if a young center is coming back. Like, if you can package him in that Florida pick for somebody like a Zegras, would be just fucking insane, and I think that would be a great move for the Flyers, but we'll see, man. Like, we have a ton of fucking time ahead of us, and what is it? A whole month and a week? Yeah. June 28th is the draft, so, and it's on a Friday too, so definitely got to have the boys over for that.
Well, the reality is right wing is just about the least of our concern down the line. I mean, I just don't feel comfortable giving a right winger who I know for a fact isn't a first-line player on a great team $9 million when we have nothing but right wingers. I mean, I'd be more comfortable going out and giving that money to a center or a defenseman, anything but just overly investing in right wing, because I love Konechny. I think in his time here, he's been fun to watch. He's great, but I don't see him as, when I think of a $9 million player, and I know the cap's going to go up, so this could be misconstrued, but when I think of a $9 million player, I think of somebody who is a game breaker, guy who can flip a game or a playoff series on its head and just make something happen. And as much as I love Konechny and what he's done, I just don't see that out of him. I don't see him being the driving force as to why we win a playoff series or this, that, and the other. I would rather that money go towards, hypothetically, Zegras' next contract. Like, I don't know. It's just my thinking. Or go out and get like a Jacob Chychrun or something of that sort. Like, I would rather, or Brady Tkachuk. I don't know. Like, I'd rather that money be spent elsewhere. It's a lot of money, man. And do I think he would actually take 9? No. I think he loves playing here. I think he would probably settle for something like 8.2, 8.5. But even that is a big ask, I think. And I just think the timelines don't necessarily fit.
And I know he might have been hurt towards the end of the season this year, but I mean, he wasn't really there when we were making that little playoff push. And I know it's not just on one dude, but, and I think he was hurt, because honestly, after a little bit, like towards the end of the season, dude, I was like, fuck, this team's not doing anything. So I was definitely still paying attention, but I couldn't remember if he was hurt or not. Was he hurt? Like, I didn't hear of any surgeries that he got a couple weeks after. Now, like, the season ends and they come out with the list of surgeries dudes have.
Yeah, no, I don't think I heard anything as well.
He disappeared, dude. And honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, I think I remember Derek being like, this is the reason why I never wanted to extend him. Like he went ghost. Like obviously he was exaggerating a little bit because he's fucking dead, and that's why we love him. But he had he wasn't fucking lying. Like the premise of what he was saying wasn't crazy. Like, hey, we were making a playoff push there. You're 27, 28 years old. You want to get paid. Show the fuck up, dude. You know what I mean? Like, and he really did. Let me go back and look.
Well, while you do that, I'm going to speak on that. I feel like there's two ways of looking at that, and it's as you get closer to the playoffs, that rush-centric style doesn't thrive as much. And obviously we've seen it in the playoffs, like how low scoring the playoffs is, how tight these games are. You can't just get by on turnovers in the neutral zone, going the other way, odd man rushes. Teams are too good for that. So they start honing in on that when it matters the most. And I think we saw Konechny was, I don't want to say like a rush merchant, but yeah, he was a transition merchant this year. And when the games got tight and when it was time to buckle down and be the veteran of the team like he had been the whole year, I think he failed the team in that regard. He failed a lot of his young teammates. And the flip side of that is if he was injured, well, that's another recurring theme with him. I mean, I can't think of the last time he's gone through an entire season without getting injured or missing games. And I think back to 1920, the year we made the playoffs in the COVID bubble. Not only was he
1920.
Yeah, like 2019, 2020.
Oh, I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Yeah, my bad.
The bubble season, I guess, is the way I should put that.
I'm sorry.
When I look back to the bubble season, he was a ghost in the playoffs, and he was injured during a really pivotal point in that season, during the regular season. I think it was the game against Ottawa where he got injured. Yeah. It was like a day game against Ottawa. I could just call back to many times throughout his tenure here where he either got injured in a big spot or just didn't show up in a big spot. And I'm just not comfortable giving him $9 million. With that being said, I do love the player. I love what he brings to the identity of the team. I think the comparison to a Brad Marchand is a little bit overblown, to be honest with you. I think Marchand is more effective in a lot of ways, not just producing, but in terms of the comparison gets made because he's a ratty player and he chirps and he gets under team skin. But when you see Marchand do it in the playoffs, it really benefits his team. It's not just funny for a mic'd up clip. It's actually, he's drawing penalties. He's actually getting under players' skins. And I don't see as much of that with Konechny. Like, yeah, he might piss players off, but he doesn't do it to the level of Marchand. Marchand has made an art form out of it.
That's a great point. Konechny, to add to the late season, 7 in his last 11 and 9 in his last 12. So, not awful in terms of points. But, I mean, let's do goals. He had 3 goals in his last 11 games.
You have to keep in mind, those last 11 games were not against the best teams in the league. Like, some of those teams were god-fucking-awful. Games that we should have had wrapped up. Games where you need a guy like Konechny to just show up and put 2 goals on the Blackhawks or show up, put 2 goals down on the Blue Jackets. And he just didn't do it, man. He just didn't do it. He missed the mark.
I think that's enough Konechny shit talking. But we'll probably come back around to it. It's bleed in orange and black, our guy. It's happening. What is the ideal setup to ease him into the NHL? Any line mates preferred? Any to avoid? What are your expectations for him? Great start to the summer, boys. I think that's all he said. But he said, let's fucking go. Keep up the great work, gents. Nothing but love for TLY crew. We love you, Bleed. I love Bleed's question because they're always like 5 questions in one.
He loads them up.
What's the ideal setup to ease him into the NHL? I don't really know what that means in terms of line mates. I would love to see him with Frost and Tippett. Couturier, if you remembered how to play hockey again and got a little bit of rest. Like we'll get into Couturier maybe later in this episode or next week, but I really don't think Couturier is as bad as as Flyers Twitter makes him out to be right now. Like, if you mention Couturier's name on Flyers Twitter, it's going to be met with, oh, the future retired player, like the dude who can't skate. Like, it's met with some disrespect. I don't think he is that bad. Like, he definitely tailed off. I just think the dude was tired last year. But wouldn't mind seeing him with Couturier's wing either. Like if they keep on, if they hold on to Farabee, Couturier, Michkov would be fucking awesome, and then Tippett, Frost, Michkov would be my other pick. But either of those two would be great. Paling, I'm kind of coming around to. At first, I laughed at the idea, but a center with his speed who can also help out defensively probably wouldn't be the worst partner to put with Michkov to start his career. And the only guy to avoid is Lawton and Cam Atkinson. Those are the two dudes I do not want to see Matvei Michkov even. I don't even want to. I don't want Matvei Michkov to know Scott Lawton's name. I need him to be gone.
Well, he might not. Yeah,
that's what I mean. Like he better not know his fucking name. He better not know what hand he shoots with. Like those are the two guys for me. I don't know about Danny.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with that. Any one of those top 6 combinations works well, but I will say I do agree with you on Couturier. I think the guy has missed a lot of time over the last 2 years dealing with serious injuries. Like that's not just something you can come back from. As much as we wanted him to come back and be that guy right away, it's just, I mean, we've seen it in the past with Giroux, Gostisbehere, with Simmons, guys who have had serious injuries. There is that adjustment period. There is that you need a year just to get your feet under you. And I think having a full off season, if he can get back to 80-90% of what the guy he was, I think that would be a perfect pair for Michkov because he just does all the little things. I mean, we know he does all the little things. He makes the right plays. When he's on, he's so on. Good. And I think that would be a great guy to kind of get him into the fold. And I know there was talk about Michkov potentially moving to center over the KHL. I believe that was last year.
He played center for SKA when he was with them in the preseason.
What better guy, if that's like a potential goal, or maybe not even a goal, but something that the Flyers have in mind, like, hey, maybe one day he could transition over. What better guy to learn from than the guy who's the best face-off man in the league, who plays a 200-foot game, can score, yet also get back to be responsible in his position. I think it'd be a great mentor. Yeah, exactly. It speaks for itself. I think it'd be a great mentor in that regard, but not only just being a center, but also just how to play the game the right way, how to create space for your teammates. Just the little things. I would love if Couturier can get back to himself. I would love those two together. Absolutely.
Assuming we don't, and this is from Tim Younghand, shout out Tim. Assuming we don't add another young significant player, what are the 4 guys you're putting out with Matvei Michkov on the power play? Ooh, I was actually thinking about this today. I obviously point, I'd go Jamie. Right wall would be Matvei Michkov, which is insane to say. Left wall would be either Tyson Forster or Morgan Frost. Slot would be Frost or Konechny. And then my net front man. Honestly, this is going to sound crazy. I was going to say Hathaway because I like him in front of the power play.
I like that one.
Who am I for Tippett? I don't think Tippett's a net front guy though.
Nah, he's probably second unit at that point.
Yeah.
Maybe Couturier.
Who's in the? Oh, yeah. Honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing. Like, we saw some really good things from Morgan Frost in the slot on the power play last year. Because I remember Rocky talking about the fact that Frost opened up things in the slot when he was transferring spots with the guys that are on the wall. So I think Frost in the slot, Michkov on his wall, Tyson on the other wall, Jamie at the point. And then honestly, whoever the fuck you want on that front, I would throw in. I'd throw in Hathaway.
Honestly,
I think it would be cool.
Just do some trial and error at that point. Like,
I mean, at this point, throw Risto back up there.
Anybody, just try something. Like, if it works, it works. But I do agree of that 3-headed or 4-headed monster of Michkov. I think Michkov on the right side and Forster on the left.
Talking about it
is insane. Like the shot that Forster has. And Matvei Michkov, he obviously has a great shot himself, but I think where that particular unit would thrive is Michkov's playmaking. I think he'd be able to get that puck over to Forster, get him in the wheelhouse for him, And if Forster wants to either shoot or tap it right back to Frost, I think that's a win-win too. And then you have Drysdale at the point, who's, I mean, in the limited time that we were able to see him, he's disgusting back there. So
I'm not saying Matvei Michkov changes your power play. They're not going to be top 5 next year, but I think we're severely underrating just how much this guy is going to help the power play. Like, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I'm going to say it anyway because I don't give a fuck. We're going to see Giroux-like plays made from walls now. Like, I remember watching the Flyers growing up, and it would be like a Flyers power play. They're down 2. Other team has an extremely aggressive PK. Pucks in like down low in the corner. Couturier bumps it up to Giroux, and I just see like 2 dudes on top of Giroux. And I remember just sitting there being like, I don't give a fuck how many dudes are on him. He's coming out of that with the puck. The puck's probably going to go across the forecheck or back to the point. Like, that dude is going to make the play against the wall, shove off those 2 dudes on him, and come away with the puck. I have that confidence in Matvei Michkov. That kid is going to create plays off his wall like we haven't seen since G's been here. If that's a hot take, that's my hot take. We're going to see plays on the power play, even on 5-on-5 too, but especially on the power play from the walls that we have not seen in 2 years. It's going to be fun, dude.
I agree with that. Honestly, I might even take it a step further. I think it might even be better than what Giroux brought. And I know that's insane to say because Giroux was a power play specialist for years. But I think, in all honesty, like if you just think about it, who was he passing across to? Voracek. Well, Voracek's whatever he did with it from there was pretty predictable. He was either going to shoot low or he was going to go for a Simmons tip. It's a little bit different now when Michkov is going to feed it to a guy who can wire a one-timer top shelf in Tyson Forrester. And this might be a hot take, but I think when it's all said and done, Michkov has a better shot than Claude Giroux. So, like, as much as I loved Claude Giroux and what he did on the power play, there was frustrations where I'd be like, dude, why aren't you just ripping that thing? I mean, not to sound like one of those fans that go shoot, but that's kind of what I'm doing right now. It's there was times where Giroux kind of fell too in love with playmaking or getting the tip or whatever. Whereas I think Michkov is going to take more of a Kucherov approach where he's going to make the right play. And if the right play is him wiring one, he's just going to fucking do that. And he's going to have no shame in it, doing it 2 or 3 times a game, racking up goals and not falling too in love with the playmaking side of it.
What if he's passing the puck to Cole Eiserman?
That's beautiful.
That's something that we haven't even gotten into yet. And I definitely want to talk about him and the Fedotov extension, which we will get into. But I don't even like, we're all so focused in, and rightfully so, it's Matvei Michkov. It's huge news. It's a potential franchise-altering player. But I really like where the Flyers are at 12. And I know maybe some of you were expecting that. Because, yeah, I am a homer. I can be a homer, but I can be objective at times. I genuinely like where we're at 12. Because, listen, 1 through 3 is pretty much set. I don't know how to say the defenseman's name, so I'm not even going to attempt, but it begins with an L. If you want to attempt for me, that's cool, but I don't even know if you know what I'm talking about.
I know who it is. I can't say it, though. I can't say it either.
Not even going to try. Lev something.
Yeah, Lev Zhuzhov. Yeah. Can't say.
Really good player for Michigan State University. I'm pretty sure he played for. So it's going to be him, obviously, Macklin, Celebrini at the top. Lev, I'm going to call him Lev. Lev at 2 or 3, and then Demidov. After that, you don't know who's going where. I mean, I have personally Caden Lindstrom in my top 5. I think Montreal is going to grab him. I think that'd be crazy to not draft him if he was there. But after that, Danny, somebody is going to drop to us because I've been saying it for months. You always have that Arizona Simashev pick. You always have that team in the top fucking 10 that wants to play Mr. Brain Galaxy, whatever the fuck you want to call it. So somebody wants to be the smartest player, the smartest person in the room, and they go out, they go off the board, and they grab their guy. That is going to happen before 12. I have no doubts about it. So somebody that we love me personally, Derek, all the draft guys, and hopefully the Flyers and Brent Flair also love, is going to be sitting there at 12, whether it's Cole Eiserman, whether it's Sam Dickinson. If you would have told me Sam Dickinson was potentially going to fall to like 7, 8, 9 area 6 months ago, I would have called you crazy. But Dickinson, Catton, Eiserman, Helenas, like, I don't know how to say his name either. I'm really bad with names. But like any of those guys, it's either Helenas or Helenas. But any of those guys at 12 would be just beautiful, man. Especially the fact that you're adding Michkov and you can add a guy like Cole Eiserman who also just scores goals. That would be a pretty good month for the Flyers if they ended up getting. And then they trade for Zegras too. Like, could you imagine? Like, seriously, could you imagine Michkov coming over, drafting Eiserman, and then Zegras is here? Like, that's something that we've never seen from this organization ever.
This is giving me real Zach Benson to Buffalo vibes.
If happens every year, Danny.
I think was that even the 12th pick? It might even be the same pick, but like it's kind of like the same scenario where I feel like it takes all the stress out of it as a fan of your team going out there and picking the wrong guy. Like the names you just mentioned, Catton, Eiserman, Dickinson. If any one of those guys are there at 12, the Flyers are going to jump on that and run with it. And as a fan, I'm going to jump on that and run with it. Yeah. It takes the stress out of it. Let the other teams make the hard decisions, and we'll see who falls, and I'll be happy with it.
Benson went 13 too.
Damn, one off. But still gives me the same kind of energy of, because I remember going into that, we were like, how far is he going to drop? And when Buffalo finally selected him, it was like, wow, they just got a fucking stud at 13. And I feel like this is kind of giving the same vibes here.
I would have smiled and pranced away if the Flyers drafted Zach Benson at 7 if Michkov went 1 through 6. If Michkov was already gone and the Flyers selected Benson, I would have been ecstatic. Arizona went Dmitry Simashev at 6, which is like, I love Dmitry Simashev, but not at 6. And then they went Daniel Boot, who's Russian, at 12. And people had him like late in the first, early seconds. So, I mean, right there, you have Arizona going kind of off the board picks, other than like Simashev, because I really liked him coming out of that draft. But you see it in every draft. I mean, Alex DeBrincat dropped. Benson dropped. Catton is dropping now. I mean, I know he dealt with a hip issue towards the end of his season, but Berkeley Catton is a top 5 talent in this draft. Skill, talent-wise, that kid is a top 5 talent, easily. And if he slips anywhere past 6 or 7, I think that's a kid that you need to get on the phone with the team and trade up for. Like, he's that good. And honestly, you might not even have to with the way this board drops. Just stay patient, like you said. If Danny Briere sits there and lets the board fall to him to a second year in a row and lands a guy like Catton or Eiserman, I mean, look, round of a fucking applause. Like, I know you didn't really do anything, but I mean, you stayed the course. You waited for a dude to fall in your lap, and that's what happened. And I really do think that's what's going to happen. I think we are going to be, as Flyers fans, ecstatic about who we come out of this draft with, whether it's 2 prospects or a prospect and an active player. But dude, I can't wait to get this going. It's already May 20th. We're a good month away. I wish it was here, man.
And like you said, if they do stand pat, I trust Briere in that regard, just based off what I've seen last season. I think he has a good ability to kind of feel out what everyone else is feeling, what other GMs are feeling. And if he's comfortable staying at 12, I think there will be a reason for that. And hey, if it's Sam Dickinson, I'm ecstatic with that. I mean, are you kidding me? I could get a potential top pair defenseman to go along with my top pair or my top line forward. 100%. That's definitely a need that has to be addressed as well. So it's kind of a win-win. I saw Derek mention it, and it kind of applies to all teams, but really does for us. Like, we just need the best player available. Like, some teams are really chasing a center. Some teams really are chasing a defenseman. We're kind of chasing everything except the right winger. And it seems like the candidates of these guys who may drop to us are anything but right wing. So it feels like a win-win.
A lot of mocks have us landing Yzerman right now, which I would be just beyond excited if we drafted Cole Yzerman into this team. Sawmill 17. Is Comcast going to help get number 39 here by June? Comcast is actually not allowed to. I saw this on Twitter a lot, but just to clear things up for people if they don't already know, Comcast isn't actually allowed to do any of the buyouting or spend any money. The only thing that they can do is hand Michkov an ELC with performance bonuses, which I think can equal up to like $3.32 million or a little bit more than that, but around that. So that could be a way that could quote unquote pay Michkov back if he buys himself out of that contract. Is just give him performance bonuses like, hey, if you scored 10 goals, here's $1 million bonus, or however much they're allowed to give out per bonus. But that could be a way it could happen. But in terms of like Comcast writing a blank check to SKA, that is not allowed and it can't happen.
Nope.
The Flyers aren't even like allowed in the talks right now. Like Briere is just kind of like, people are like giving Briere shit for not really saying anything and being kind of coy about the whole situation. But like, that's exactly what I want him to personally do. Like, don't say a fucking word. Don't say anything that could jeopardize this deal getting done. Because you know those Russians, Danny. You say one little thing, they'll take the fucking deal off the table by spite. Shout out Ryan Conway. But he's right. They will. They'll be like, oh, you already think he's there? Like if Briere came out yesterday and was like, yeah, it's looking good, or like something along those lines. Like that would probably throw a wrench in the negotiations, even though Briere isn't even a part of them, you know? So keeping his mouth shut is exactly what he should do.
Absolutely. And that's how they're helping. Like, I believe the question was, is Comcast helping to bring 39 in orange and black? That's how they're helping. They're not puffing their chest. They're not jumping the gun. They're not flexing. Hey, this guy's about to be ours. Get excited. They're helping by staying quiet. They've said everything right. Yeah. In almost every interview I've heard, even before we got to the realization that he's probably going to be here this season, me and you have talked about how cool they've played it because they realize how important he is to everything.
Yeah.
Like if this falls through the cracks, it sends your organization back another 5-6 years. So they're kind of playing chess in that regard by staying quiet. The answers they're given are very politician-like, and I love it. I hope they keep doing it until he's here.
What did we say on text that we hope Jonesy does game 1 of Michkov being here? Or was it game 1 against Cutter-Gauthier?
Oh, yeah, we can get into that. That one's kind of funny. But remember the back and forth between both social teams about the real orange and black. I think the Flyers started it with Jamie Drysdale. Jeez. They posted a picture of him at like a skate and said the real orange and black, and then Cutter-Gauthier signs his ELC, and then they fired back with the real orange and black. I think it would be really hilarious if the first game that those two play together in Philly, if the Flyers put up rally towels or T-shirts, anything that is a giveaway to the fans that says the real orange and black, because it's so subtle that it's like it's not really a direct shot. It's not really deemed classless, but it's also just enough pettiness, and I think it could pass with the PR team that it could be done. Like I don't see why they couldn't throw that on a towel with a Flyers logo and just kind of play it off as like, we're just kind of having fun with it. Like, I don't know. I think that would be hilarious.
I think it should be done.
I agree. I would fucking cry if they did that.
I think it will be done, Danny. I think I'll make it happen. I'm going to send corporate an email or just Jonesy himself. I think that should genuinely happen when Cutter-Gauthier comes to Philadelphia. Him coming to Philly needs to happen, especially if Matvei Michkov is here. Could you imagine if he came into this building and Michkov just like goes up to his face and just like, fuck you?
Makes him even more of a legend. I think I said it to you, dude. I hope he adds fuel to that fire, Gauthier. I hope he has a douchebag interview before the game. I hope he's a douchebag during the game, because all it's going to do is just boost the legend status of Matvei Michkov when he eventually gets his. And if there's a clip, even a clip that we can't even read the lips, but we know he's talking shit to Gauthier. He's a legend.
Yeah, anything.
He's
dude.
even more of a legend than he already is. Please fuel that. I want him to.
Would you be just like, yeah, I'm glad you ain't come, bro.
Dude, I hope he fucking lays him out. I hope like Gauthier goes for a hit like on his back and thinks that he has him, and then he hits him with like a little reverse hit, sets him down real quick, says something, scores later in the game.
I was just going to say that Michkov can throw some dirty reverse hits, so that's definitely something I can see him doing. Jay Money goes, when are we building the Michkov statue? Is it going to be like the Allen Iverson statue, kind of like small like that, or life size? Because I'm down for either.
I'm ready for it right now.
Yeah, fast. Like, I wouldn't even be mad.
Don't ask us. You should ask those who don't really follow hockey that closely. Maybe if you want the real answer to that one. But for me, it's as soon as he says something to Gauthier, I'm ready to build a statue of like him next to like a clay Gauthier, where he's clearly like a parody of him, like looking like a goblin or something, and he's just talking shit to him. I don't know.
Honestly, he could post on Instagram, just had some Delco steaks, went crazy, and I think I'd be cool with a statue or something like that.
The guy's immortal to me already.
Broad Street Bullies. If Michkov does arrive this summer, do you think they stay the course this offseason with whoever they draft in current roster, or go after a big 1C? And that kind of, let me look for it. That kind of is the same question as KC Krebs. The narrative that we need to go all in of Michkov, if Michkov comes over next year, are very short-sighted and simply dumb. Stay the course, Danny. So it's kind of the same question, and I kind of agree with KC. And I think that's exactly what they're going to continue doing. I think they were going to look for a potential young 1C, whether or not Michkov is coming over or not. Do I think Michkov coming over accelerates that search? Yes, obviously it does. It's only so long that he's on that ELC contract, but I agree. I think it would be dumb if they were just like, "Oh, Michkov's here. Let's go spend $9 million a year on some guy on the UFA market." You know what I mean? Like, I don't see them doing anything like that. I think they're going to be heavily involved in the trade market and try to get better that way. But in terms of like reversing course and going out and throwing big money at a 30-year-old, if that's what your worry is, I don't think it's going to happen. I think that Danny's pretty level-headed when it comes to that, and I think he's going to stay the course. So I don't think you have to worry about that personally.
Yeah, I agree. It's all a timing thing, and we've seen them. If the timing's right on them getting a 1C this summer right now, I think they'll jump on it. But like you said, I don't think they're going to force it. And same thing, I don't think the other way. I don't think they're going to force not buy anybody. I think they're just in that in between where if the timing's right, if the transaction lines up, they'll do it.
But Lawton's got to go.
He does. I'm tired of seeing him, man. I really am. Nothing personal, but deuces.
I was just going to say something, but let me not. I was going to say it's starting to get personal. I'm just starting to get annoyed, but it's not getting personal because he's a really good dude. But like you said, man, been watching the guy for a really long time. And it's just sort of the tired of seeing him kind of thing. You know what I mean, dude? Like, he's a decent player for who he is and what he makes. Like, I have no complaints about that. It's just, I'm just fucking tired of seeing him. I really am.
I think what annoys me the most is like the moves that we've declined over the years that would have given us nice assets in return for him. That when I look back on it now, it's like, what did keeping him really give you? Like, yeah, I get it. Good locker room guy, good culture guy, but we didn't make the playoffs. He didn't spearhead us into the playoffs. At this point in time, I'd rather have that late first round pick to work with in this draft or the next draft.
I think the good thing about that situation, and I totally agree with what you're saying, because I personally would have traded him away 2 years ago, but I don't think that value left. I think it's still there for a lot of GMs and a lot of teams. I don't, like, he's still making $3 million for the next year or two. Let me look real quick. Pretty sure he's under contract, so he makes $3 million this year and next year. So he's not even a UFA till 2026, 2027. So still under contract for $3 million, which is a bargain. He's looked at as that quote unquote locker room presence all around the NHL. Good dude. Like I that value that was rumored, I think is still there. Like if that was true, I don't see why that would go away. Like he didn't get hurt, he didn't do anything stupid. Like you know what I mean? I think you see it draft day. Like I think that would be the perfect. Like, Briere said after the trade deadline that he had multiple players in the organization walk up to him and say, "Don't trade Lawton, give him one more go at it." And we saw what happened. Nothing. Lawton was honestly, I don't think he had a good year last year. I think he was pretty So you gave him the one last hurrah. Nothing happened. I think reality set in after that. Like, yeah, it was a good thing to give him one last hurrah. And honestly, I think he deserved it from the time that he's been here. And I think he was given it because Danny knows in the back of his head that, like, hey, if I'm offered a first round or a late second, or an early second now, like, I don't really see why that wouldn't be on the table draft day, unless, God forbid, this guy blows his fucking knee out or something. You know what I mean? So I think you see it this summer. I think you see it during the draft.
You made a great point. Like 2 years at $3 million per is really attractive to. I'm thinking about some of the cap strap teams that have a ton of talent but are looking for a depth center. Like the one that comes to my mind is Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yep.
They're always looking for budget forwards, budget guys who can fill in and maybe play above their, like, kind of turn a $3 million guy into a $4 million guy. And who knows, maybe in a system like that, on a team like that, I could see why a team would want that.
Yeah. Tampa too. But Tampa doesn't have any first round picks to throw up. I don't even think they have fucking second round picks, to be honest with you. Let me look right now. But that's another team, right? Like off the top of my head, I'm like, they always lose guys in the offseason, right? Because they're always usually pretty deep into the playoffs. But
yeah, it's always a revolving door for teams like that. Like their depth. Yeah, like you just said, Toronto, Tampa, Colorado, all these great teams that are cap strapped and top heavy. The bottom of their lineups, the depths of their lineups are always a revolving door, and they're always looking for the next value guy, the next budget pickup.
Absolutely.
And he fits the mold for sure.
Toronto doesn't have a first round pick this year or next year. They don't have a second round pick this year or a third round or a fourth. They don't have a pick until the fifth round this year.
A Mitch Marner trade. Fuck. Mitch Marner trade could change that real fast, though, huh?
I'll talk about Tampa.
Oh, Tampa. I think you said Toronto.
No, I might have said Toronto. My bad. But no, Tampa. Holy shit. That's definitely not somebody I want to make a trade with. Toronto has their first round pick this year. They just don't have a second or a third this year. And they don't have a first, second, or third, or fourth next year. But yeah, like you said, a Marner trade could definitely change that. So definitely something to keep an eye on, Danny. Scott Lawton this offseason. Hopefully he's fucking gone. I like this question a lot because I want to get your thoughts on it. What are some realistic expectations we can expect from Jamie Drysdale this coming year? Also, with the pending rumors of Michkov coming this fall, who's a high-end player Danny should get to pair with Michkov? Answer the first half.
I'm a little concerned because, all right, I read this after the season during the exit interviews. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But isn't he getting a core surgery this summer?
I think they were on the edge of whether he should rehab it or get it. I'm pretty sure he got it.
See, that really concerns me because we saw when Giroux and Gostisbehere had core surgeries and came back, they weren't nearly as effective as they were. And I get it. Like, he's young. He probably has youth on his side. But my expectations for him are a little bit tempered going into next season just based off his injury history. And I wish it wasn't. I wish I can go in and be like, oh, he's going to have a breakout year and turn into our Erik Karlsson. But it's just, from what I've seen in the past, this injury is a serious fucking thing, man. And
it is, yeah.
And I'm willing to be patient with him, though. I am. I'm not going to hound on him next year if he's not, like, the guy.
I remember talking to Derek about it, and it was like after we found out that he was dealing with that core injury during the year. And me and Derek were looking at each other like he was dealing with a core injury where he couldn't skate and he was still skating like that. Like, it was pretty impressive to see the way he was still moving towards the end. Like, he came back and still looked like Jamie Drysdale despite not really being able to move his fucking legs. But that makes it, yeah, like, that's a really good point because that's a serious injury, and we've seen guys come back from that extremely slow. But like you said, how old was Drew when he got that surgery? How old was Ghost when he got that surgery? I'm pretty sure Ghost was around the same age, no? Like 26, 27, maybe a little bit younger.
Yeah, maybe that's the better comparable because offensive defenseman, if you will.
Yeah.
But still,
Jamie was moving last year. So, like, if he gets the surgery, I think obviously that injury is weird and it'll take a little bit of time to come back 100%. But I think the youth and just the way the kid can skate will kind of mask that, if that makes sense. Like, it'll be a little bit harder to tell with Jamie, I think, just by the way he can skate and kind of cover it up.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm still a believer long term. Like, I think he's gonna when he gets back to 100%. I do think he's gonna be a legit guy, and I don't have concerns about the long term view of this. It's just for next season. But let's be honest, next season doesn't really matter anyway. Like, we know we're not gonna win or go for a cup next season. So as long as he can get back to 100% or be that guy when the time comes to compete, which I think he will, I'm fine with it. I just have tempered expectations for like the first half of next year.
Wait, so you're telling me that we're not on a cup run with Michkov next year?
Shit, no. I'm going into every game wanting to win. No. I want to make the playoffs with all my heart. I'm just trying to be realistic. Like, we overachieved this season. Let's just say it how it is.
Oh, for sure.
And I just don't want some fans to be disappointed if we take a step back. I don't want the narrative to be like, oh, you added Michkov, Yzerman, Zegras, and you took a step back. Like, no, there's going to be a ton of growing pains with this shit, man. And I'm willing to go through it.
Michkov himself, too. Like, I think he's going to have a little bit of a lull to start and the adjustment that it'll take. But I did say this in the group chat yesterday. I think it's a good thing that he's coming over now. Like, not like this year. I mean, that we're getting these rumors in May and he might be here in June. Like, he'll be on the ice whenever he wants in Voorhees. You know how the guys sometimes hop on the ice and fuck around. Development camp, rookie camp, real camp, preseason games. Like, by the time real camp rolls around, hope he's like acclimated to the fucking skate zone rink and somewhat with his teammates and stuff like that. So that's why I think getting him over now, getting him in Voorhees now, next month, getting him on that ice, whether it's just him alone in a fucking Flyers practice jersey, I do not care. Just getting him there, skating, shooting, talking with everybody is a really good thing, in my opinion, in terms of him getting acclimated into this season. But I still think it's going to be a little bit of a lull. I mean, he is a 19-year-old kid. We all have to remember that he's 19 years old. He is a teenager. You know what I mean? So, like you said, one thing I do think. What?
You finish what you were saying real quick?
Can't expect him to be Nathan McKinnon. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I do think that benefits him is his build, though. I don't think he's as small as a Bedard or whatever. He's pretty bulky, man. Like, I do think his durability in year one should hold up. I think he'll be able to take a big hit. I think he'll be able to take some board crunches along the way. That's kind of one thing that I've never really been concerned about with him. I know, like, the narrative from the Habs fan, he's 5'8", he's small. He's gonna tear his ACL. I'm like, dude, have you not seen this kid in the gym? I mean, he's a gym freak.
No, 50% of those people, and not all of them, because I'm friends with some of those, with some Habs fans. The cool dudes, cool people, cool gals. But the other 50%, no, Danny, they don't watch it. They don't watch anything, bro. They just get on Twitter and say shit to cope with the fact that they don't have Michkov. Like, it's not even the fact that Reinbacher is bad. And now you kind of got me fucking mad. That shit has been pissing me off, dude.
It's copium.
It's not even like, it's not like, I am completely willing to sit here and have an actual conversation about Michkov and some of his faults, and yeah, he's not the best at defense, and blah blah blah. But like, do you really need a guy like that? Like, first of all, do you really need a guy who can potentially score 50 goals to be a fucking defensive stalwart? No, stop. But the size shit, like the attitude problems that I've seen thrown around, like people just saying like his team doesn't like him. He's small. He can't skate. Like, do these people actually know who Matvei Michkov is? Like, do they watch hockey games, or do they just say shit to say shit? Because it's not even like on the Flyer side, we're shitting on Reinbacher. Like, all of us collectively are like, hey, we think Reinbacher might be a top pairing defenseman. He's a good player. Don't know why you're acting like you drafted Ruka Spiza, but and then like on the other side, it's just Michkov sucks. KHL watered down. Like, it's just like, come on, bro. Like, have an actual conversation with a Flyers fan who's not even hating on your pick. You know, it blows my mind. And it's not all Habs fans. Some of them are cool, but it's just like that 50%, man.
Well, I think they struggled to come to grips with the fact that their organization didn't select him. Like, let's be real. All of Montreal wanted him. They were in an uproar when they took Reinbacher. They're even DMing Reinbacher hate and shit. Like, some of the toxic shit I've seen coming out of there, but it's all to help them sleep with the fact that their organization passed up on him.
Wait, ready?
We just let the fucking dirty ass fucking Phillies.
we just let the dirty ass fucking Phillies.
But that's
land Matvei Michkov. And that's the same motherfucker who turned around like months ago and was like, you know what? Michkov not good. KHL bad. Demidov, who's not even in the KHL, is good. It's just like, you make no sense. Come on, man.
Yeah, I know.
Like, just stop.
The anger should be at their organization, because that's truly where it should be directed towards, because they came up with every reason in the book to justify their organization's decision to not select him. They were like, oh, it's going to take 3 years. And what if he doesn't even want to come to dirty ass Philly? Like, I'm kind of glad we passed on that, because now we don't have to wait 3 years. And then they see it only took 1 year. It's like, oh, but he's small. Like, the excuses are just going to keep flowing. Dude. And in a way, I kind of understand it, because they got to cope with that. But if I was in their situation, I would be mad at my front office. I mean, I've done it before. I'll do it again. Like, when the Flyers fuck up, my anger isn't directed at another team or their player. It's directed at the fact that, oh, Chuck Fletcher didn't fucking pick this guy, or Ron Hextall didn't fucking pick this guy. It was never, I'm going to tear this player down a notch just to make myself and my organization, my fan base feel better.
Like, one of the craziest things about that situation is the fact that, and this is not me saying I wouldn't have picked Michkov if I was Montreal, because I would have 9 times out of 10. But if their thinking was the risk with the whole Russian shit, it was too much with Michkov last year. Let us take not the surefire defenseman, because there's still a little bit of questions with him. But I genuinely think Reinbacher is going to be a solid top 4 dude, and then a chance to be a really good top pairing guy if he hits his ceiling. If their thinking was the risk was too big with Michkov, let's take the good defenseman now, right-handed defenseman with size and who can skate, and then we'll probably finish bad next year because we're not a good hockey team, and then we'll get one of the top centers and forwards next year. Like, if that was their thinking, it's not bad. Like, you don't win championships with one guy. You're not going to win a championship with just Michkov. So I get the understanding. And honestly, like, they might not make out better. Like, I'm trying to word this the right way. Like,
it just won't be like a lose-lose.
It's not. Yeah, like, you're getting a great player in Reinbacher. Then you might turn around and get Caden Lindstrom in the draft this year. So, like, what's there to complain about, man? Like, you didn't get the superstar. Like, I think he's going to be, but like,
well, that's why they're hurt. I mean, come on, this guy's gonna drop 110 points some seasons, maybe 120. Like, when Michkov's in his prime, they're all gonna be sitting there on their couch watching him in the playoffs. And who knows? Maybe they'll be in the playoffs too. Maybe we'll meet them. But
that's what I'm saying. Like, you never know, man. Maybe fucking Reinbacher turns into like one of the best defensemen in the league. Like, you never know what shit happens. It's almost a year since that draft, and I'm still seeing this. Like, that shit that I just got done ranting about is fine a couple months after the draft happens. Like, you're still dealing with raw emotion, blah, blah, blah. But like a whole year after, and you're still rambling about the same shit. Come on. You know what I mean? Like, come on, dude. You got a good player. You didn't fucking draft Lucas Spies. And I know I always use that dude's name. I feel bad. But, like, you know what I mean?
Well, I think they just kind of start to see the inevitable now, which is he's going to be a superstar. And
he's a Flyer.
And they're going to be salty because there's going to come a time where he's going to dagger their team, and they're all going to be sitting there, on, like I said, on their couch and be like, what the fuck, man? We could have had this kid. And so in that way, I get it. Because we've been on the other side of this certain scenario my entire life. It's always been the other team. It's always been the other team getting the superstar, and I have to sit back and just eat it. So I get it. I've been there more than anybody, trust me. But calm down. He's going to be a great player.
Real quick, before I forget, Alexei Kolosov is not going back to the KHL. I don't know if you saw that rumor, and I just want to throw this out here for anybody who still thinks that was an actual rumor. It got debunked by like a lot of people.
Yeah, I saw Meltzer debunk it day one. Made me feel much better. Meltzer said something day one that made me feel much better about it.
Flyers organization, people close to Alexei himself, all shut it down. And I have no inside information. This is me just spitting, but maybe the 22-year-old was actually a little homesick. But first of all, he couldn't just like pick up and leave. Like, you have a contract, you're obligated with the Philadelphia Flyers. You couldn't just be like, I mean, I guess you could. Sedlak did it, but I feel like it would be a little bit harder than just being like, peace. You know what I mean? Like, do I think he got a little bit homesick? Do I think he was a little upset that he didn't get a little bit more playing time down in the AHL? Yeah. But like, do I think he's leaving? No. I mean, that was debunked, so it's not happening.
And this is the fanboy in me. But what if, like I said, take this with a grain of salt. This is the fanboy in me. But what if he got wind that another certain Russian was going to come through shortly and kind of ease that homesick thing a little bit, you know?
Well, he's got Fedotov right there. Go hang out with him.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Let's get into him, by the way. I don't think we really
that was my next thing.
But what if he was like, someone sat him down and was like, listen, you got Fedotov and Michkov's going to come over too, and he's going to be the face of the organization. So you guys can all adjust and get comfortable together, sort of thing. But
he's like, okay, that sounds good. That sounds real good.
Okay.
Okay. Well, Kolosov's Belarus. How do you say it?
Belarus.
Yeah. He's that. He's not like Fedotov's Russian, but still, I mean, those three very soon. Danny Michkov, Fedotov, Kolosov can all, and Zamula. Like, shout out Zamula. I don't know if you're going to be here next year, but if you are, you can go hang out with the boys too. Like, get all the fucking Russians, dude. Bring them all. Let's get Michkov as comfortable as possible, dude.
Worked for the Lightning. It'll work for us.
Let's talk about Fedotov real quick, right before
let's do it.
I say this question. But Fedotov extended 2 years, $3.275 a year. Obviously, we're a little bit late to the party with this, and just want to throw this out here. We were 2 months hiatus. That will never happen again. But Fedotov, 3.275. Definitely a little bit of an overpay, but obviously there were reasons into why it was an overpay, you know?
Yeah, they're pigeonholed. I mean, with the whole Carter Hart thing, they saw how Sam Ersson kind of hit a wall towards the tail end of last year. And Fedotov, when he was at the top of his game in the KHL, he was legit, man. I mean, he's 27. So, like, the notion that he's just going to come in and take peanuts is kind of ridiculous. Like, he was always going to have to be given a little bit more of a sweetener. And we're in a position where we can do that. I mean, for the next 2 years, we're paying off retained money and Cam Atkinson's money. We're paying off all these contracts anyway. So what's another
Hayes?
Yeah, Hayes retained money. Like, what's another extra million that was projected anyway? I mean, like I said, they're pigeonholed. They got to take a risk. And the flip side of it is, if it works, it looks really fucking good. I mean, like I said, the guy's 27. He's massive. He's huge. If he adjusts in North America and becomes that legit guy, I mean, that looks like a win. So I kind of like the gamble.
4.725 for both your starting goalies next year. It's not terrible. Like,
no, it's not bad.
I do understand that it may not look good in terms of like negotiation when you're just being like, okay, here's an extra $1 million, and I get that, but like you said, the situation with Hart, Urson is still 24 years old. Yeah, could you have gone out into the free agency market and gotten a veteran goaltender for cheaper than that? Absolutely, but I think there's more to it than we know, and obviously I would just be sitting here saying shit, but I think it has to do a little bit with the Michkov situation. Just the fact that Fedotov is Russian, and like you want to look good when you're handing him his contract. The guy was comfortable in Russia. Like he wasn't just, like you said, he wasn't going to take pennies just to come over here and play. Like, he's 27 years old. He was comfortable in Russia doing his thing. Like, I don't care. Like, it's not really not that much. 3.275. It's a little bit of an overpay. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't work out, he's an unrestricted free agent in 2026. And if it does work out, you got a pretty solid goaltender for 3.2. Like,
exactly.
Doesn't bother me in terms of like negotiation, maybe a little bit, but even then, I'm just like, it's just the circumstances with this are just so wild. It's hard to look at it from a, you know what I mean? Like, it's hard to look at it from like an actual normal negotiation standpoint, because it's not a normal negotiation situation. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
If that makes sense.
If he pops off, like you said, he becomes a UFA. If he pops off and becomes the guy, amazing. If not, you can look at it as, hey, he's a bridge to Kolosov. Kolosov should be ready maybe within 2 years. Hopefully, maybe not. But that seems like kind of the thinking with that. And there's a lot of things to be mad about. I don't think that's one of them.
How do you think that looks at from Kolosov's perspective? Like, you finally come over, you barely get played in the AHL, and then you see a guy like Fedotov come over, get played immediately. Well, and then get an extension like that.
Not sure, to be honest with you. But he has a lot of growing to do. He has a lot of...
Still young.
Yeah, it's going to take time for him to get there. And if anything, like, I don't know, maybe
22.
Maybe
wow.
Fedotov... Yeah, exactly. Maybe Fedotov can just help to ease his transition in. I don't think there's a scenario where Kolosov expected to be starting in the NHL day one. But let's say maybe Fedotov exceeds expectation, gets a little extension or a bridge extension. Kolosov comes up and is ready. I don't think he would be having a problem with maybe getting like a 60-40 split or a 70-30 split. And that's if things go well with Fedotov. I think like I said, the flip side of that is that he sucks. We get rid of him. Kolosov steps in when the time comes, and then he becomes the guy. But I don't know. He might feel some kind of way about it, but I just don't think it would be yet. Maybe when he is NHL ready, maybe then he'd have a problem with it. But I don't know.
From Jake Cornelius, could you see the Flyers trading up in the draft to go for players like Demidov or Lindstrom to pair with our glorious king, or the Flyers stay put and hopes Cat and Eisman fall to them? I think the latter part of what you said is what's going to happen. I don't think you're going to see any. First of all, you rarely see any trades up into the top 5 in the NHL, but
yeah, it's expensive.
I think them staying pat and letting a pretty good player fall into the lap, that's what's going to happen. I don't think it's worth trading up for somebody when you could probably just sit there on your hands and get a really good player for free. I mean, that's what I would do. I don't see them moving up.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's too expensive. I mean, we spent all this time, all this work to get all these assets, all these chips to bring to the table. I don't see them just like throwing it all away in this draft.
Yeah, no, it's just like you said, extremely expensive, and you're going to get a good player at 12. So, not really a point in moving up like that, you know?
Yep.
I think that's everything. I think that's all the questions. Everyone shout out to you for throwing the questions at us. We had a lot. But yeah, I think that's everything. Holy shit. We answered all the questions. Damn. A 2-month hiatus and everyone's asking questions. 16 questions. Shout out to everybody who threw one in. Thank you.
But hey, man, it's an exciting time. Getting to the tail end of the playoffs. The Michkov announcement should be happening soon. The draft should be happening soon. What we project to be the biggest summer in our fandom in recent times is about to get underway, and it's really exciting. I cannot wait to get into June, into late June.
Yes, sir. I'm ready.
We wrapping this one up?
Sounds good.
All right. Nice little hour and a half. This has been episode 109 of the Liberty O. You can follow us on all socials at the Liberty O. Follow us on Twitter at TLY Danny and at Chris Stumps.
Go Floor.